and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 369, and today's date is May 17, 2014. And the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you to all those people who donated to the X22Report.com site. I really do appreciate it. I am very grateful. Thank you very much for the donations. Let's get into the economic collapse news. Now, a couple reports ago, we talked about DHS having this hands-off terror list, and we understand that Senator Charles Grassley is investigating this, and what he's turning up is that the certain names on the hands-off list are being deleted mysteriously, and they're asking Jay Johnson, why are these names being deleted off of this list? And they are looking back further when Janet Napolitano was in charge of the DHS, and it looks like she was also wiping the records of the hands-off list of certain individuals that they didn't want anyone to know about. So this is very interesting that they don't want the senator to see certain people on the list. Are these people going to be designated and are going to be used to carry out the next event? I mean, why are they doing this? Are they being paid? Are they in the back pockets of the agencies of the United States to carry out something? And we'll have to hear and see later about what's going on there. Now, down in Nigeria, we understand this whole entire propaganda of the girls being kidnapped in Nigeria, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to create that link between Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram. And right now, today, Saturday, the president of Nigeria was out there saying that the Nigerian Islamist militant group Boko Haram is no longer a local threat but has become a West Africa's Al-Qaeda. Boko Haram is no longer a local terrorist group. It is now international, and this is the way the United States is going to say, see, we need to get into this area. We're going to see other events occur there. This group will expand, just like in Kenya with the Al-Shabaab terrorists. This is the way the United States can say, okay, it's international terrorists. Let's get into Nigeria. We can start bringing forces down into the region, and this is exactly what they're trying to do at this point. Now, we understand that the United States controls the Panama Canal, and Russia right now is building their own canal in Nicaragua. And Moscow and Managua are to cooperate over the next few years on the construction of the so-called Interoceanic Grand Canal, a new alternative to the Panama Canal. It will be deeper and wider and longer than its rival in Panama. The new canal will challenge U.S. control over the region, though experts are divided on its geopolitical benefits for Russia. The main investor is a Chinese company, HKND, which has received a 100-year concession for building and operating this canal. The construction will be carried out by works from China and Russia. So we're going to have the Panama Canal, and we're going to have the Nicaragua Canal. And we're going to see that Russia and China will maintain control of this canal so they can get ships moving back and forth in the region. Now, we understand the Thai government in Thailand is a puppet regime of the United States. And every time we see these puppet regimes, they always seem to forget about the people's rights. They forget about democracy. They come down hard on these people, and in every place we see, they usually end up calling them terrorists. And in Thailand right now, what is happening is that these people are rising up. People are saying they do not agree with this government there. And right now the army has threatened to declare martial law if widespread violence breaks out in Thailand. Anti-government protest campsites have been the target of numerous attacks from unidentified assailants in recent weeks. The latest incident killed 3 demonstrators and injured at least 20. Now, if martial law is invoked, it would grant the military superior power over the civil authority in matters of maintaining public order. It would permit the military to censor the media, announce a curfew, and burn any house or thing which may be useful to the enemy. So you can see this really sounds pretty much like what they're doing in Ukraine, what they're doing in the Middle East, and here we are in Thailand. They would want nothing better but to declare martial law, because it will make it much easier to come down on the people who are looking to oust the government in that country. And again, if we look in the Middle East, we're seeing the same exact thing. People are rising up, and of course the United States calls them Al-Qaeda, terrorists, but these people want democracy, freedom. They want the private Western Central Bank out of their country. They want the United States out of their country, and they want to take control of their country, and they want it back. And we see this happening in Thailand right now, and these people are going to be pushed and controlled down by martial law if they do impose it. Now, in Ukraine, what we're seeing right now is Donetsk, the region, is going to ignore the presidential elections in Ukraine because they're saying they're not part of it whatsoever, and there's no reason for them to even, care about it. The self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic won't participate in the election of the Ukrainian president on May 25th, says the new prime minister of the breakaway region. There won't be any presidential elections on the territory of the republic. Now, they're also, since they broke away and they're autonomous and they seceded from Ukraine, they are looking to create and adopt their own constitution. They're saying a sovereign nation needs their own constitution, so they're creating their own constitution. And of course, as we know, Ukraine does not like this whatsoever, and this is why they're intensifying their anti-terrorism forces. The 24-hour period is up. They are continually asking the anti-terrorism forces to remove themselves from the Donetsk region, and as so far they have not. So we might see some type of skirmish start up someplace, because now we're past the deadline. They're continually asking them to remove themselves, and they have not done this so far. Now, a couple reports ago, we talked about how we understand how the FBI, the CIA, and NATO is in Ukraine. And we have to understand, Ukraine is not part of NATO, so there's no reason for NATO to be in there whatsoever. But of course, the puppet government in Kiev is controlled by the United States government, the central bankers, and of course NATO is going to be in there. And of course NATO's excuse, they're in there to protect the nuclear facilities, to help them with security. And we have to think about this. Why are they saying this? And there's a new report out of Global Research, and they're stating that about 20 members from the armed neo-Nazi front-right sector attempted to storm the nuclear power plant. So you can see how they're creating this false flag event, like something is going to happen. They're going to have this group storm the area and say, oh my God, these nuclear power plants are not secure. And how would this help the United States central bankers and NATO? Well, of course, if they did this, NATO would have the excuse of bringing in troops into Ukraine. And we can see what is happening. They're using the security and the safety, and this is why NATO is helping out. And as soon as they have some type of an event occur where that looks like another group has stormed and taken one of the nuclear power plants, they can make the case that, okay, this is getting out of hand, this could go nuclear, and we really need to bring in NATO troops. And we can see how they're continually pushing all these little mini false flags to provoke, and bring in troops and try to get this war started. And so far it has failed every time. I mean, they've killed a lot of people, but they cannot provoke Russia into doing something, and the regions are having referendums. They're breaking away from Ukraine, and we can see the situation is really at a tipping point at this time, because one little flashpoint, one little hiccup could really start an all-out civil war in Ukraine. And of course, this would then spread. Nations would get involved, like United States, NATO, Russia would start getting involved. It would spread to China, and we can see how this could get completely out of hand. Now, the people in Libya are really fighting to take back their country. They're pushing the government out. And a retired Libyan general says he will continue his campaign to free Benghazi of terrorist group. The operation will continue until Benghazi is purged of terrorists. And this is coming from Major General Khalifa Haftar. Haftar heads a group calling itself the National Army, which launched the large-scale operation to flush terrorists out of Benghazi. And of course, they're saying this is not a civil war. You know, the people are terrorists, so if they're labeled terrorists, it's no civil war. We're going after a terrorist group. But it is a civil war, just like we're seeing in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, Ukraine. Of course it is. The people of the country do not want the puppet governments in that country. And also we're seeing it in Thailand. The people are fighting. It is a civil war. It is a fight against both sides right now. And they can call it terrorists or whatever they want. We know it is the people of those areas. Now, of course, there was a huge amount of flying. The Libyan army has now put a no-fly zone over Libya at this time. And all military planes flying over the city will be shot down by army units. So we can see what's happening here. The United States central bankers said to Libya, take control of the country. You have 2 months to do it. The United States is ramping up forces in Italy to use that as a springboard to get into Libya. The Libya government is doing whatever they possibly can at this point to control the situation, and eventually it will probably not be controlled, and we will see the United States move in with troops, with NATO, with UN, and we will have another war, and they will try to push back the people once again. You'll see drones, you'll see fighting, you'll see military assets streaming into Libya. Now, as we know, in Syria, the propaganda, all the information that's coming out is building up for an event to occur in Syria. We understand all the arms are coming down. We understand they kicked out the government officials in the United States, closed the embassies, and gave the opposition group diplomatic status at this time. And we understand that Kerry has been meeting with all other nations. And the reason why they gave the Syrian opposition diplomatic status was to lobby heavily for increased weapons shipments. So we can see what they're doing at this time. The whole thing is completely planned out incrementally, a little bit at a time. This event will occur. They are planning, they are pushing, they will be bringing in more and more weapons to the region. We understand they're training the troops. They are getting ready to do one or two things. They're going to have an event around the world to say, look what Assad has been doing, or they'll make an assassination attempt and they'll just go right in with a mission of some other sort to get into Syria. But we understand that they will not give up. They will continually push their agenda forward because they realize, and we all understand this, that they only want one thing. Their goal is to remove Assad from power. That is it. There is nothing else they want more, because this will give them the ability then to go into Iran, because we understand that Iran has a pact with Syria that if they are invaded or they need help, Iran would come to their aid. And then we also know that China and Russia are backing Iran and Syria, and of course that would bring in Russia and Syria, and then the United States would get involved fully with all the other NATO nations, and then the fighting starts. So we can see, as I said in my other reports, this is happening all over, and they're pushing the agenda faster and faster because they understand they are in a time crunch at this time. We understand the Iran interim agreement ends in July. The elections for Assad comes up in June, and they have a certain period of time to get something started. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.